Julie Ann Gonzalez, a young mother residing in Austin, Texas, found herself entangled in a web of marital discord with her estranged husband, George de la Cruz. The strains in their relationship reached a boiling point, eventually leading to their separation. However, the story took a dark turn on March 26, 2010, when Julie Ann mysteriously vanished, leaving behind a trail of unanswered questions and a grieving family desperate for closure. On the fateful day of her disappearance, Julie Ann had planned to pick up her daughter from George's residence, a routine arrangement post their separation. However, as hours turned into days with no word from Julie Ann, anxiety quickly morphed into dread among her loved ones. Julie Ann Gonzalez was born into a close-knit family who described her as a loving and caring individual. As she transitioned into adulthood, she pursued a career that allowed her to express her nurturing nature. Her life took a significant turn when she met George de la Cruz. The couple, drawn together by mutual affection, decided to cement their relationship by tying the knot. Their union was further blessed with the birth of a daughter who brought immense joy to their lives. However, as time progressed, the initial euphoria of marital bliss began to fade, giving way to discord and disagreements. The couple found themselves entangled in a web of differences that seemed to grow with each passing day. The strain in their relationship reached a point where reconciliation appeared distant, leading to their eventual separation. The separation brought about a new routine where Julie Ann and George shared custody of their daughter. Julie Ann was determined to ensure a stable and loving environment for her daughter despite the marital discord. She meticulously planned her days around her daughter's schedule, ensuring that the little one remained unaffected by the changes in their family dynamics. George, on the other hand, found himself grappling with the reality of a broken marriage and the challenges that came with co-parenting. The interactions between Julie Ann and George were now limited, mostly revolving around their daughter's well-being and custody arrangements. As Julie Ann navigated through the complexities of single parenthood, she remained focused on providing a nurturing environment for her daughter. Her life was a delicate balance between her responsibilities as a mother and her efforts to move past the emotional turmoil that accompanied the end of her marriage. The routine custody exchanges, although a reminder of their failed relationship, were carried out with a singular focus on ensuring a semblance of normalcy for their daughter. However, the events of March 26, 2010, shattered this routine, plunging both families into a whirlpool of uncertainty and despair as Julie Ann Gonzalez mysteriously disappeared from the radar, marking the onset of a cold case that would baffle the community and the law enforcement for years to come. On March 26, 2010, the day started as usual for Julie Ann Gonzalez. According to the established custody arrangement, she was to pick up her daughter from George de la Cruz's residence. However, as the day unfolded, it became apparent that something was amiss. Julie Ann, known for her punctuality and adherence to the custody schedule, did not show up to collect her daughter. As hours ticked by without any word from her, concern among her family and friends began to escalate. The initial hours following her failure to show up were filled with frantic calls and messages, attempting to trace her whereabouts. Her family reached out to her friends, colleagues, and extended family in a desperate attempt to gather any information that could shed light on her sudden and unexplained absence. The lack of any response from Julie Ann was out of character, and alarm bells began to ring among her loved ones. As dusk settled, the concern morphed into a grave fear, prompting her family to report her missing to the local law enforcement. The Austin Police Department initiated a missing persons investigation, marking the beginning of a long and arduous journey towards unraveling the mystery surrounding Julie Ann's disappearance. The initial investigation involved a thorough examination of her last known whereabouts. Law enforcement officers interviewed George de la Cruz, who claimed that Julie Ann had come to his residence but left after deciding she needed some time alone and wanted him to take care of their daughter for a few more days. This statement, however, was met with skepticism by Julie Ann's family, who insisted that it was highly unlikely for her to abandon her daughter willingly, even temporarily. The community rallied around the family, organizing search parties, distributing flyers, and leveraging social media to spread the word about Julie Ann's disappearance. The Austin Police Department intensified its investigation. The initial phase involved retracing Julie Ann's steps on the day of her disappearance, which led them back to George de la Cruz's residence. The investigators meticulously combed through phone records, bank statements, and social media activity to piece together a timeline of events. The spotlight soon turned towards George de la Cruz, whose statements to the police began showing inconsistencies. His claim that Julie Ann wanted some time alone was contradicted by her close friends and family, who stated that her daughter was her world, and she would never voluntarily stay away from her. The digital footprints played a crucial role in the investigation. Forensic analysis of Julie Ann's social media accounts revealed no activity post her disappearance, which was uncharacteristic given her regular online interactions. Similarly, her bank accounts showed no activity, and her phone records indicated no outgoing calls or messages since March 26, 2010. The investigators also delved into the dynamics between Julie Ann and George, uncovering a strained relationship fraught with disagreements and custody battles. Interviews with friends, family, and co-workers painted a picture of a troubled marriage and a contentious divorce in progress. As the scrutiny on George de la Cruz intensified, the investigators discovered evidence of possible foul play. Testimonies from neighbors and acquaintances brought to light George's erratic behavior and his attempts to control the narrative surrounding Julie Ann's disappearance. A significant breakthrough came when a forensic examination of George's backyard revealed traces of burned clothing and a knife. The investigators also discovered that George had attempted to access Julie Ann's social media accounts post her disappearance, further raising suspicions about his involvement. The media coverage of the case continued to grow, with the community rallying behind Julie Ann's family, demanding justice and answers. The mounting evidence against George led to his arrest, marking a turning point in the investigation. The meticulous collection and examination of evidence, coupled with the relentless pursuit of truth by the investigators, set the stage for a trial that promised to unveil the sinister plot behind Julie Ann Gonzalez's disappearance. The narrative was now shifting from a desperate search to a quest for justice as the legal proceedings against George de la Cruz commenced, opening a new chapter in this harrowing tale. The trial of George de la Cruz commenced amidst a wave of public interest and media scrutiny. The prosecution was tasked with presenting a compelling case despite the absence of Julie Ann Gonzalez's body, a challenge that underscored the proceedings. The prosecution laid out a chronological narrative, beginning with the strained marital relationship between Julie Ann and George, leading up to the day of her disappearance. They presented digital evidence, including phone records and social media activity, to establish a timeline that contradicted George's statements. One of the key pieces of evidence was the forensic analysis of George's backyard, where traces of burned clothing and a knife were discovered. The prosecution argued that this was indicative of an attempt to destroy evidence related to Julie Ann's disappearance. Furthermore, the prosecution brought to light George's attempts to access Julie Ann's social media accounts post her disappearance. They argued that this was an effort to control the narrative and mislead the investigators. Witness testimonies played a crucial role in the trial. Friends, family, and acquaintances were called to the stand to provide insight into the dynamics between Julianne and George, as well as their behavior before and after the disappearance. The testimonies painted a picture of a contentious relationship, with George exhibiting controlling behavior. The defense, on the other hand, argued the lack of a body and physical evidence linking George to a possible murder. They contended that the evidence was circumstantial and did not conclusively prove George's involvement in Julianne's disappearance. Despite the challenges posed by the lack of a body, the prosecution's narrative, bolstered by digital evidence and witness testimonies, resonated with the jury. After deliberation, the jury found George de la Cruz guilty of murder, and he was sentenced accordingly.
Shock and disbelief.
I don't believe it. I've known him since he was a little bitty baby, so I don't believe it.
Would you want to take another polygraph test with me asking you if you killed Julie?
No, now no more, because I know I probably wouldn't fail. Because right now I'm not even calm, I'm not even thinking right.
Well, if you didn't kill her, you'll pass that test.
The trial and subsequent conviction of George de la Cruz brought a semblance of justice to the family and community. However, the case had a peculiar twist that left a lasting imprint on the legal discourse surrounding it. The absence of Julianne Gonzalez's body was a significant hurdle throughout the investigation and trial. This lack of a body posed a unique challenge, as it is rare for murder convictions to occur without the physical evidence of the victim. Meanwhile, the appeal process commenced as George de la Cruz's defense team sought to overturn the conviction, citing the lack of physical evidence as a significant flaw in the prosecution's case. The appeals emphasized the circumstantial nature of the evidence and challenged the legal grounds on which the conviction was based. On the other side, the family of Julianne Gonzalez continued their quest for closure. The verdict provided a sense of justice, but the absence of Julianne's body left a void that could not be filled. The family maintained a hope that further investigations or new leads might eventually lead to the discovery of her remains, providing a final chapter to the harrowing tale that began on that fateful day in March 2010. In the quiet town of Tulsa, Oklahoma, the name Kim McVeigh resonates with a chilling echo, representing a mystery that has haunted the community for over 3 decades. The cold case of Kim McVeigh is a tale of a sudden disappearance, a family's relentless quest for answers, and a law enforcement's unyielding investigation into a case that gradually turned cold as the years rolled by. The incident occurred on a seemingly ordinary day, January 7, 1985, when Kim McVeigh, a young woman with her whole life ahead of her, vanished without a trace. On the morning of January 7, 1985, Kim McVeigh, a resident of Tulsa, Oklahoma, commenced her day like any other. As per the routine, she left her residence with plans known to her close family. However, as the hours ticked by, it became apparent that something was amiss. Kim did not return home, and her whereabouts became a subject of immediate concern. The initial hours following her failure to return home were fraught with anxiety. Her family, growing increasingly worried, decided to alert the authorities about Kim's uncharacteristic absence. The Tulsa County Sheriff's Office was notified, and a missing person report was promptly filed. The description provided by the family painted the picture of a young woman with distinctive features, someone who could be easily identified by acquaintances and even by individuals who had seen her around town occasionally. The authorities swung into action, initiating a search that encompassed the area surrounding Kim's last known location, extending gradually to cover a broader radius as the initial search yielded no clues to her whereabouts. With the dawn of January 8, 1985, the Tulsa County Sheriff's Office, spearheaded by the lead investigator, embarked on a meticulous investigation into Kim McVeigh's disappearance. The initial phase involved gathering all possible information from family, friends, and acquaintances regarding Kim's last known activities and interactions. Interviews were conducted and statements were recorded meticulously to piece together Kim's movements on the day she vanished. Simultaneously, a forensic team scoured Kim's residence and personal belongings for any clues that might shed light on her disappearance. Every piece of evidence, however minuscule, was catalogued and analyzed in the hope of finding a lead. The neighborhood was canvassed, with law enforcement officers knocking on doors, seeking any information residents might have regarding any unusual activities or sightings on the day of Kim's disappearance. Tommy Edward Harris has been apprehended by the Tulsa County Sheriff's Office in relation to the 1992 killing of Kim McVeigh. McVeigh's remains were discovered behind a storage shed at a residence on 9600 North Memorial Drive, a known narcotics hotbed where Harris and others, including McVeigh, were residing at the time. The cause of her death was identified as a gunshot wound to the head. According to investigators, another individual implicated in the crime has passed away. A member of the Cold Case Task Force dedicated over 12 months to this investigation, which culminated in Harris's capture. Remember that this video talks about the tragic loss of life that will forever affect families and loved ones of the victims. I hope that this video can bring awareness to those cases to get their stories heard. If you guys enjoy this content, be sure to like and subscribe. I have many more exciting cases coming your way.